Okay.
Please allow. So, Rabi, you mentioned reading non-fiction and development economics.
Yes, sir.
So, what have you read recently?
So most recently,
Louder.
I read Good Economics for Bad Times by Abhijit Banerjee. Other than this, I've read books like India and Uncertain Glory by Amartya Sen, Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid by C.K. Prahlad, and I'm currently reading but not completed reading Poor Economics by Abhijit Banerjee.
So, you are a Abhijit Banerjee fan and a Nobel, you follow all the Nobel laureates.
Sir, my interest in development economics started with reading Amartya Sen and John Drese. During my college, I had taken a course on humanities. It was an economics course, and Professor John Drese came as a guest lecturer a number of times. That is where my interest in this field developed.
All right. And you are also interested in Ghazals.
Yes, sir.
Who is your favorite poet?
So, my favorite reciter is Mehdi Hasan Sahab, yes, sir, poet, the writer of Ghazals you're asking.
And writing of?
Sir, my favorite Ghazal is Ranjish-e Sahi. It was written by Ahmad Faraz and sung by Mehdi Hasan Sahab.
Mehdi Hasan.
Yes.
Do you remember any other Ghazal of Mehdi Hasan?
Yes, sir, a number of Ghazals he sung. So one is Gulo Mein Rang Bhare, and
Aage, what was the next line?
Gulo Mein Rang Bhare, Baadino Bahar, Chale bhi aao ki gulshan mein bahar khile.
के गुलशन का
Gulshan
का कारोबार
चले. Yes, sir.
Tell me one thing. If you love ghazals, you cannot possibly say that I have prepared for my ghazal singing interview with one singer, thing
sir,
which you
no.
can't quote correctly. Your favorite ghazal.
No, sir,
Now, can you cite any other lines from Ahmad Faraz?
Sir, Ranjish-e Sahi is.
ये तो आपने पहले
Yes.
बतला दी ना. अब दूसरी ghazal बतलाइए ना मुझे.
जी सर. सर मैं और किसी सिंगर की बता.
नहीं, मैं तो फराज साहब पे इज्जत करूंगा, because you see what I'm suspecting is that you have written this as a hobby and prepared certain specific answers which you think the board will ask you. But this board is not very kindly inclined towards this. It is not to be driven by the nose and taken round the ring. So if ghazal is your hobby, give me another nazm by Ahmad Faraz, or I will give you a choice. Somebody's poems have been taken off the text books this morning. He is a contemporary, sort of a little senior colleague of Faraz Saab. Give me two ghazals very famous from Faiz Ahmad Faiz.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir, but I do listen to ghazals. I can tell you a number of ghazals.
No. All right. Whatever you do, I'm not interested in what you are prepared with. I will ask you specific questions related to the field of ghazal and singing. Have you ever heard of a person's name called Malka Pukhraj?
No, sir.
Farida Khanam?
Yes, sir.
Begum Akhtar?
Yes, sir.
Give me a ghazal sung by Begum Akhtar which is famous.
Sir, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, यूं ही पहनों में बैठे रहो.
Are you sure you are quoting a Begum Akhtar ghazal? Or you are not again falling into the trap of going back to Mehdi Hasan Saab and Ghulam Ali's ghazal singing with specific things? All right. I will leave it at that. I will pass you on to Ambassador Swaroop.
Surbhi,
Yes.
what is the difference between culture and civilization?
Sir, a civilization is. So a culture is a way of living. For instance, from the routine that a society follows to the practices they have, their cuisines, their watching, the kind of shows that they watch, all of this defines their culture. A civilization, I believe, has more historical connect. Sir.
More historical connect in what sense?
So, for instance, if we talk about the Indus Valley civilization, so it was basically an entire setup. The people, their ancestors, sir, I'm not able to put this into words. I have the essence of.
Okay, let's move away from there. What are the defining characteristics of Indian culture according to you?
So Indian culture is defined by number one, their welcoming behavior towards guests, which is defined by Atiti Devo Bhava. So secondly, I would believe that Indian culture is not a homogeneous culture. It is basically defined by its diversity as well. So North India, for instance, would have different cuisines, completely different cuisines to offer from South India or from East India or West India. So presence of a huge diversity and is another aspect of Indian culture.
So basically you're saying Indian culture is a composite culture,
Yes.
which is the amalgamation of a number of historical influences,
Yes.
which happened over the centuries.
Yes.
Is that composite culture now under threat?
So in recent times there has been violence around certain religious processions. So I believe there is a rise in instances where there is lack of harmony between communities. But I believe that these are one-off instances which have arisen due to specific causes. But the culture overall is not under threat. For example, sir, we still find unity among various religions, among various people in say corporate sector, in places where people meet and greet each other. These instances which are highlighted by the media are probably one of instances which are caused by certain factors, and they do not define the Indian culture as a whole.
But they are the votaries of the people who are enforcing certain diktats say that no, that is the real culture and this is the fake culture.
So for example, if we talk about these religious processions, there were certain elements from both the Hindu and Muslim communities who instigated violence against each other, because of which these processions took a violent turn. But overall, processions on say Ram Navami or any other religion have been a norm which India has followed for more than 75 years now.
So if you were the police commissioner of a sensitive district,
yes,
where there was possibility of a communal violence breaking out, what preventive steps would you take to ensure that nothing happens under your charge?
Sir, first of all, I would mandate that any gathering of a large scale should happen with the prior permission of police authorities, so that sufficient safeguards and manpower can be installed throughout the paths that these processions have to follow. Along with this, sir, for instance, we have the Aman committees model in Delhi, wherein different religious community leaders come together,
But violence broke out in Jahangirpur.
Yes, sir. Sir, I believe that was because of a lack of these current institutions that have been put in place. It was due to a lack of performance on their part. It could have been managed better. For instance, Aman committees in Delhi are working in many other areas, and they have been able to successfully carry out any religious activities without disruption of harmony.
Okay, my last question to you. What, according to you, is India's most important USP, unique selling point to the world?
Sir, I believe it is India's soft power and India's method of dialogue and deliberation to resolve any conflict. Ever since our independence, we have followed this path. When the world was divided into two during the Cold War scenario, India was among the leaders that pioneered the non-alignment movement, and we have always taken a deliberative path towards resolving anything, and that is what the world currently needs the most. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Surbhi, you have done up something in agriculture technology, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me, who's the leader in agriculture technology in the world?
Ma'am, I'm the company which is leading. Ma'am, I'm not aware. I look.
Any country which has done
Israel.
tremendous work?
Israel, yes, ma'am.
So Israel and India almost got the independence around the same time, and our agriculture technology is still not developed vis-a-vis Israel. What are the reasons?
Ma'am, I would partially accrue their success to a survival instinct, because Israel is a very small country and it is situated in a water deficit terrain. So to be able to sustain their population, investing in technology which helped them overcome their inherent deficiencies was a survival instinct. So they focused a lot on investing in technologies to recycle water and to use less water and produce more, and innovations like vertical farming.
That is the reason. Then Rajasthan, at least Rajasthan as a state, should have done well.
Ma'am, we currently are working in this domain. For example, we have the, I'm forgetting the name of this canal which has been extended from Punjab to Rajasthan. So India is working on in that direction, but I believe that investments in agriculture or R&D in agriculture have not picked up to a great extent in India, because if I can think of one reason, there are food surplus states like Punjab and Haryana, and due to this seamless trade of food between nations, that survival instinct may not have taken.
Okay, that's one reason. What are the other reasons for Israel's success?
Ma'am, their startup culture is another reason. Many Israeli startups are focusing on the agriculture sector and investing in technologies that help agriculture boom.
We are not having any startups in agricultural tech?
Ma'am, at present we have very few startups.
Can you name few?
Yes, ma'am. One startup named Dharaksha Ecosystems. They convert stubble that they collect from farmers in Punjab into more useful things like packaging material to replace
Any other?
thermocol. Kheti is another startup, KHEYTI. They are working in Bangalore. They are providing mobile greenhouse systems to farmers. They are modular greenhouses. They help save on the inputs that farmers.
So you yourself named about 2-3 good startups in India.
Yes, ma'am.
So why we are still lagging?
Ma'am, it could probably be on the timeline of startups per capita. Israel, being a small country, has a large number of startups per capita, and India, even though is a leader in startups, per capita startups, I believe, are still.
Okay, let's say tomorrow you are given, let's say you are in the policy formulation division, or at least you are able to send across your suggestions to the ministry. What will be your 2 concrete suggestions from your end, because you are keen follower of development in agriculture technology? What will be your 2 suggestions?
Ma'am, number 1 will be to incentivize research on agri-tech within the universities of India. So there was a research paper which came out 2 years ago which pointed out that agricultural education is very lacking in India. There are very few universities that provide purely agricultural education. So incentivizing universities and students to take up research in this sector would be the first step. Second would be to incentivize the private sector to invest in agriculture through liberalizing the sector, contract farming, farmer producer organizations, organizing farmers so that they can better collaborate with industries with greater awareness, less information symmetry, and there can be greater inflow of investments in the sector. For example, technologies that I can think of like vertical farming, which can change the face of Indian agriculture. We are a land deficit nation, can only be implemented if there is huge inflow of investment, and it is only through public-private partnership that these can succeed.
Okay, good politics is bad economics. Earlier, with in conversation with one of the esteemed member, you were talking about economics. So tell me, how relevant is this statement? Good politics is bad economics. How much do you relate to it?
Ma'am, I would not relate to this statement. I would say that good politics is good economics, because in the long run, if policies are guided by good economics, which is also the point that Abhijit Banerjee wants to make, then in the long run they will also be good for the politics of the country. For example, if we invest in health and education of citizens and we invest in their nutrition, we will get greater capabilities in these citizens tomorrow. We will have a healthy and a skilled workforce, and this will automatically lead to greater economic growth. Whereas populist politics like farm loan waivers may be good in the short run, but are not good for either politics or economics in the long run.
Okay, my last question to you. You're fond of healthy baking.
Yes.
What is healthy baking?
Ma'am, I would rather call it healthier baking, because we substitute certain unhealthy ingredients in baking with healthier ingredients. For
Like?
example, if there's sugar in cakes, it can be substituted with banana mashes or with dates or other ingredients which have natural sugar. Or
But can I interrupt with
Yes,
your permission
please.
that
Yes,
banana is supposed to be one of the most avoidable fruits by diabetics. So it is as good as dumping with the high glycemic index fructose into your body and much more carbohydrate and starch. So how does banana become a healthy alternative?
Sir, I would like to counter here that first of all, say 1 cup of sugar for a cake can be replaced with just 2 bananas. So let's
No,
say
but my problem is that you are replacing one unhealthy ingredient with another unhealthy ingredient, and 1 cup of sugar goes into equal measure of eggs and fat in an egg. So no person eats a half a kilo cake all by himself.
Yes, sir.
So I'm only saying that calling something healthy, because you are obviously taking a demonized ingredient out of it. I would much rather not use sugar and use, I'm sure if you are interested in healthy baking, you are following Sanjeev Kapoor's sugar substitute, and I'm not talking of zero sucrose kind of thing. I'm talking of stevia, stevia nipponica, which is a natural sweetener. And it is now available in a form where you can sweeten your bakes with that. So,
Yes.
and you know what you are giving is a sattvic, eggless version of a cake to me. But I don't think it's necessarily healthy, because please do check up Ms. R. Divekar and other nutritionists. There is consensus about bananas being poison for diabetics. One food which you are not supposed to eat at all is not only the sweetener, it is the carb and the starch in the banana. Terrible.
yes, sir.
So continue with the other healthier ingredients. I'm sorry.
No, sir.
Sir, if you would want me to answer this.
Yes, of course, I very much want you to
Yes.
answer that.
Sir, so the one thing is that both quantity and quality matter. So as I was saying, 1 cup of sugar is replaced with just 2 bananas. So
No,
one
but we have
slice of-
discussed this. You are going back to the same argument. I am putting for your consideration with an open mind
Yes.
the consensus of the nutritionists in India and abroad that bananas are not a healthy substitute for sugar, period. On that, the jury is not out at all.
Sir, dates is another natural substitute for sugar in cakes. So
But that kind, what would be the volume equivalent of 1 cup of sugar or 2 bananas in dates? And dates again are very high in sugar content and not necessarily a healthier alternative for everybody. It is great to break your rosa after day-long fasting. That's why probably they were accepted.
sir, I would just want to make a personal point here. My grandmother is a diabetic, and the reason I started using all of these ingredients in cake.
Are you sure you are giving her a healthy diet?
Sir,
Because I think you are an amateur nutritionist, almost poisoning your grandmother, if I may say so, with full sense of responsibility.
Sir, but I would just want to defend my point here. So if you're having just a little slice of cake, it would have 2 to 3 spoons
So
of
why
sugar.
not the sugar, the natural one, sugar and egg thing? Your
Yes.
mother is not an egg eater, I'm sure. Your grandmother is not an egg eater.
Yes, sir. No.
So that all your options are basically the sattvic enforced vegetarianism on the rest of us who are having a perfectly healthy diet with our non-vegetarian protein high diet.
But sir, do you not crave desserts in your diet?
No, I'm sorry. I am a professionally trained nutritionist specializing in diabetic foods and have consulted with that. So what I'm exchanging with you is a proper, well-researched thing. And I would refer you to go to literature on this, which is available on net. Trained nutritionists don't seem to agree with your anecdotal subjective evidence. So I will not carry this conversation further, but pass you back to me.
I'm fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
When is your interview?
Sir, 11th of May.
Oh, you have plenty of time. You are a pretty confident person, but I would say that it is possible to retract without being bullheaded and stubborn about something which is not based on objective scientific evidence, but you are going back to defending your point by anecdotal, subjective, singular experience of you. I would, with all due respect to your nutritional concerns for your grandmother, I would say that please refer to, there are healthier alternatives possible for purely vegetarian eggless bakes, which are possible. So it is possible to do that.
Yes.
Thank you. I would request the chairperson to advise you how to best. You are a very good candidate.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, I enjoyed the argument you were having with Professor Pant. Only problem was that you were confronting the real topmost guru on the subject. Anybody else would have got convinced by your argument.
I would not yield for a same subjective reason. I am a diabetic of 20 years standing, and I am worried about my diabetic intake. I have not, in my experience, come one endocrinologist, one nutritionist, one physician who advises you to consume bananas under any circumstances. That's the one no-no.
I'm a diabetic and I love bananas, but I cannot have bananas, unfortunately, for the reason mentioned. Now, you have mentioned so many things in your hobbies and interests. We could have asked you many questions. We were tempted to NSS, Model UN, so we would have asked you about the real UN and debate, so many issues for debate, and agriculture, technology, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And there are so many things. So, master your DAF. Yes. Every possible question, and not with just, for instance, Ghazal, one poet, at least 3-4 poets, at least 3-4 Ghazals. So, always keep 3-4 options, because if somebody is interested, they'll follow up and then they will expose if your knowledge is very superficial. So, master your DAF, identify 100, 120, 30, 40 questions, and be ready with the answers.
And YouTube is available. Please, between now and 10th, listen to some Ghazals of Ghazal majors. You don't have to see everything, but the famous Ghazal singers you cannot miss out on, including Lata Mangeshkar, whom Dilip Kumar Saab said, how could a Marathi woman have a talaffuz of Urdu? And Lata Mangeshkar proved him wrong, and he accepted it ultimately, that he was wrong. So please, Lata Mangeshkar has rendered some brilliant Ghazals. But the Ghazal goes in Urdu Shairi are very, very famous. From Adam Gondwi to Jigar Muradabadi to Shakil Badawini to Mazroo Sultanpuri. And I think you cannot be a Ghazal lover and say, I'm a one Ghazal person. One Ghazal singer, one Ghazal. It's not very difficult to remedy.
Yes.
When you want to relax between now and 10th, just go to YouTube and listen to some Ghazals.
Second, you have to be on top of current affairs and news by reading the newspapers thoroughly and taking notes. What newspaper do you read?
Sir, Hindu and Indian Express.
That's a very good combination, and between the two you will have enough information. Just take notes, serious notes, and keep on revising them. Do you have any question?
Yes, sir. One, the overall feedback on my performance, and secondly, sir, about the point on Ghazal, sir, I would really like to contend with you here, sir, because I've been listening to Ghazals for the past 4-5 years.
That is not apparent in your interview. If you have been listening to Ghazals for past 4 or 5 years, it was not reflected in your response to questions. This again is a weakness. You stubbornly go back to a point which is proved objectively you are not doing that.
No, sir, I'm just requesting your feedback.
I'm giving you the feedback.
Yes.
This is part of the feedback.
Yes.
I think the feedback is that you are much too stubborn a person to yield ground, even when you have been proved patently wrong. When you are being interviewed on Ghazal and questioned on Ghazals, you did not prove that you had passion enough. You even forgot the line of your favorite Ghazal, कि गुलशन का कारोबार चले.
So you will get the CD of
जाने की
this.
इज्जत ना करो इस फरीदे खानों में.
जी बिल्कुल.
And you will get the CD of this and see it carefully and correct this point which Professor Pant is making. About,
This is not to bully
you. Should know
this is
when
to prepare you better for the real ordeal in UPSC.
you're acting like Putin. He doesn't know where to stop. Stop and retreat.
It is not a question of loss of face. But you should be a resilient person in an open-ended argument, open to other point of view. Not go back. That in my experience, I have seen my grandmother's blood sugar drop drastically from 200 before fasting to 190 or 8. Those are arguments which can't be won by this kind of exchange. But your responses to Ghazal were definitely not of a person who really loves Ghazal singing. I can't imagine a person not remembering the famous Ghazal and saying Bahar aa jaye. वो है ही नहीं गजल में कहीं लाइन. As the honorable chairman pointed out, is गुलशन का कारोबार चले.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. Listen to the CD carefully and follow the advice. Okay.
All the best.
But otherwise you are a very good
You are a
candidate.
very good.
You are a very good
Get
candidate.
disheartened.
Very
No,
pleasant
this is not to
candidate.
discourage you.
Yes.
This is only to prepare you for not doing the same mistakes in the real encounter with UPSC, you
Yes.
probably will do very well and score very well.
This is just to smoothen the rough edge that you showed.
And to
Okay.
prepare you for the real audience. Good luck to you. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you will do very well.
Thank you, sir. Thank
All
you.
the best.